warm welcome to today's edition of Money Moves. I am Melissa Enoch here at the FMDQ studios in Lagos.
And I am Grace Agbarago. It's Wednesday, the 22nd of October. We thank you for joining us at this time on the show.
All right, then let's begin with your news now. Africa Finance Corporation has secured a $100 million 10-year term loan from FinDev Canada, marking its first partnership with the Canadian Development Finance Institution and AFC's debut in the Canadian market. The facility will support AFC's growing pipeline of renewable energy and low-carbon transport projects across sub-Saharan Africa, strengthening its commitment to climate-resilient infrastructure development. At the G20 Forum on Advancing Cross-Border Payments, policymakers and financial leaders are exploring opportunities and challenges for sub-Saharan Africa. Discussions focused on how faster, cheaper, and more transparent payment systems can boost trade, financial inclusion, and regional integration across the continent. Let's take a listen.
At the G20, we're chairing the G20 at a time where geopolitical conflict is at its height, at its most kind of significant height. So it's very hard to get consensus at the G20 when you want to assess to what extent has the Russian-Ukraine war, the Middle East conflict, and a few other conflicts, to what extent do they have an impact on global growth? Who's responsible for the slowdown in global growth because of geopolitical conflicts? And it's very hard to get consensus on that, as there are different alignments, different countries, and so on. But there is one area where there's not much controversy. I heard this from our colleague from the US who are taking over from us, is everyone extolled the virtues of a low-cost, efficient, fast payment system. There's no debate there. It's kind of, it's the easiest thing. Whether you have geopolitical conflict, whether you have COVID, it is one area that no one will disagree with. No one, there's different views about treatment of climate change. There are different views about how you treat the debt problem that is a big issue at the G20. But it is a non-controversial issue to look at and extol the virtues of a fast global payment system. But that is the good news. The bad news is that it's very hard at a forum like the G20 to assess how successful you've been in moving the cross-border.
In Nigeria, fintech giant Moniepoint has raised over $200 million in a Series C funding round led by Development Partners International, with participation from Leapfrog Investments, Visa, Google's Africa Investment Fund, and the IFC. The Nigerian fintech said the funds will support its expansion across Africa and beyond, strengthening its digital financial services for small and medium-sized enterprises, a key driver of the continent's informal economy. In Zambia, President Hakainde Hichilema today commissioned the new Trade Kings Group glucose and starch plant at the Lusaka Multi-Facility Economic Zone, a milestone investment boosting Zambia's manufacturing and value addition drive. The facility underscores the country's commitment to local processing, job creation, and industrial growth through private sector collaboration. Let's take a listen.
I must make that point very clear. So the significance of this plant cannot be overemphasized. We've heard the jobs story, direct jobs. First construction jobs, then the direct jobs, sustainable jobs, then the indirect jobs within the Kingsworth business and this facility. But when you talk of the group, the Trade Kings Group, 17,000 jobs is not a joke. This is bigger than any single mine is employing. I think we need to clap about that. I always say to colleagues in cabinet, Abena Zambia, mule ishiwo tuntu. Right? You must put context to these things. I'm not aware of a single mine employing 17,000 workers. I need to be educated. Labor is here, Cabinet is here, my colleague Commerce is here. So now, and if you heard the number or so, and thank you, my dear colleague, for your articulation. I was listening to you attentively, that $1 billion plus investment. We need to clap for that as well. But more importantly, a lot of this investment goes into production, into manufacturing, into value addition.
In Rwanda, global experts, policymakers, and farmers gathered for the opening of the 6th World Congress on Agroforestry. The event highlighted the vital role of agroforestry in promoting sustainable agriculture, food security, and climate resilience. Let's listen.
Our planet faces immense pressure from climate change, biodiversity loss, land degradation, and widening inequalities. Yet, across the world, farmers and communities are showing that solutions already exist. Agroforestry is one of the most powerful of these solutions. It regenerates soil, secures water, restores biodiversity, captures carbon, and strengthens livelihoods. But promise alone is not enough. For agroforestry to deliver at scale, we must bridge the gap between knowledge and practice. We must move from models to mainstream, from pilots to whole landscapes, from ideas to tangible impact. Today, I'd like to reflect on the 3 pillars that define our shared work: people, planet, and prosperity. And what will it take to act boldly and without delay? First, people. Agroforestry begins and ends with people. From the farmers who nurture the land to the consumers whose choices sustain us. It connects those who grow, those who trade, those who invest, reminding us that our well-being is interdependent. Our task is to make this connection equitable and empowering. That means ensuring fair value along the chain. From land tenure and access to finance to how markets reward sustainable production. It means elevating the voices of those too often unheard, women, youth, and indigenous leaders, and building upon their ideas, innovations, and lived experiences. Because agroforestry doesn't succeed through instruction, it thrives through
Finally, on News Now, Afreximbank has reported a net profit of $654.3 million for the 9 months ended September 2025, up from $642.2 million a year earlier. Total assets rose to $42.9 billion, with capital adequacy at 25%. The results come ahead of the investiture of Dr. George Ilombi as the bank's new president on 25th October 2025, with opening events slated for 24th of October. Afreximbank said the strong performance underscores its financial resilience and momentum as it enters a new leadership chapter. I am Melissa Enoch, and that's it on News Now for today. The show returns shortly with Grace at the FMDQ Archives Room for our Markets Rounds. Stick around. Welcome back to Money Moves. Let's now go over to Grace for today's markets update. Hello there, Grace.
Thank you, Melissa. Let's now track how the markets are wrapping up trading for the day, starting off with equities. It's a mixed trading day across the African equities, with major markets finishing on the positive. In Nigeria, the NGX rose 1.50%, leading regional gains, with BROVM also gaining 0.66% to 338.40. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange was seen trading on the positive, up 0.17% after yesterday's losses. While in North Africa, Morocco's MASI led regional gains, up 0.16%, and the EGX 30 closed on the negative, down 0.32%. And in Kenya, the Nairobi Securities Exchange closed on the positive, up 0.36% to 178.36. Let's do a quick round on some of the Pan-African currencies. The rand strengthened 0.11% to 17.43 per dollar, while the naira firmed 0.14% to 1,465 naira 06 kobo. The CFA franc appreciated 0.55%, and the Moroccan dirham rose 0.31%. The Egyptian pound edged down 0.04%, while the Kenyan shilling was steady at 129.20. Let's switch into the commodities data deck, beginning with energy prices. Brent crude rose 2.01% to $62.55 a barrel, while US WTI rose 2.24% to $58.52. Natural gas increased 1.09%, and Arabian gasoline added 1.90% as of 13:34 GMT. And finally, two soft prices. Cocoa surged 5.65% to $6,250. Coffee rose 1.37% to $419.20. And cotton fell 0.54%. Palm oil declined 1.06%, while sugar slipped 0.46% to $15.70 as at 13:37 GMT. And that's our Money Moves markets today. Back to you, Melissa.
Grace, thank you very much for giving us those updates on how the markets closed today. And that's it on today's edition of Money Moves. From all of us here at the FMDQ studios, we say thank you very much for watching and bye for now.